Greetings and salutations, viewers and listeners. Welcome to episode 122 of Word Ninjas Live, the final episode of 2015. As always, I am your host, Charles, and hey, we have a full crew tonight. Yay! Who do we have on tonight?
I am here, Will, hopefully with decent enough internet so that I don't sound super choppy.
Mission not accomplished, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
I'm Justin with less facial hair.
And I'm Calvin with more mustache than everyone in the crew.
Combined almost. You know what? I think you would look good with just that mustache going all the way down to the center of where your beard is.
I've tried that. No.
No, doesn't work out.
No.
Fair enough.
Overruled.
That's why I decided to stick with the rest of the beard and just I decided to trim my beard down, but I realized my mustache had started growing in really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to let it go, so I just left the mustache and trimmed everything else down, and it seems to work okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm happy.
All of us have come with or without facial hair to discuss 2015 and 2016, because hey, the year is almost done. We have all survived 2015. It has been a very crazy year.
It's been surprisingly more calm for me this year than last, which I'm very happy about. I mean, it's still been crazy, but hey, this is the kind of crazy I could deal with.
Yeah, I did a quick summary of what we did this year, and for those of you who are curious as to just what we've accomplished, go check out the NSFWN finale episode, because we all reminisced and discussed. And I think it came out really well. It was fun listening to
Everyone's
everyone
farts.
else. And going through the 2015 archives, I'm kind of surprised at how many conventions we actually went to this year. Collectively.
I went to more conventions this year than I have in my entire life, combined.
I mean, there was your Minicon, there was Book Expo America, BookCon, Kineticon, AkaiCon, Inconceivable, Hartford Comic Con. That's a lot of conventions for one year. But I think it gave us a lot of great opportunities, and it really helped us figure out how we go about doing all the things between vendor and press and attendee and all that good stuff.
It provided a lot of insight into what we've been doing thus far and what we should do in the future. And one quick thing for those watching the video, I'll be vibrating slightly during most of this episode because I'm also grinding coffee off screen. So that's why my body's moving ever so slightly.
Yes, coffee.
Yes, this is a coffee grinder, not anything else. Conventions were fun.
Yeah. Definitely learned a lot from them, and even though I know we're cutting back on events for next year, I'm still excited for the ones we have scheduled and we're going to attend, because I think we have a more solid strategy going forward for how we're going to pull things off and what we're going to accomplish. We're a little more focused now that we've figured out how we want to go about things and what we want to accomplish there.
And interestingly enough, we're actually probably going to be attending even more conventions than we have in the past. God willing.
Maybe not necessarily next year.
Well, I think I'll be out and about. I'll be going places, don't you worry.
I would change the phrasing of that to events rather than just conventions. Then I would say yes, we are going to be going to more events than conventions from this year compared to next year. Or however that grammar works out to be correct.
In any event, and I don't want to belabor a point, there are a lot of conventions that I do plan on going and recording for. We just won't be tabling at the conventions that I'll be going to. So maybe you could call them events, but things like Maker Faire and the Coffee and Tea Festival, those are kind of conventions, not really events per se.
Well, you just said it was a fair and a festival, not a convention. Those are entirely different.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
And I wouldn't mind going to Brooklyn Book Festival next year, presuming we're not double booked.
Pun not intended.
Moving on. What were some highlights for the rest of you from 2015?
Well, I know my biggest highlight I've been raving about for the past few weeks is that I finally finished my novel, My Roommate's a Stripper. Finished the writing part of it anyway. The editing part, that's coming next year. But the writing part is done, and I'm still pretty psyched about that. I know that's more personal and less group related, but that's the one thing that really sticks out for me. Plus, it was really recently. It was like last month.
So, quick question on that. So, I was wondering about how to go about this because I was planning on writing a bunch and then editing, but I wanted to release things on a chapter-by-chapter basis, like what you were doing. Mm-hmm. So, you would still consider what you released the first draft? And you're going to go back and edit the entire thing as a whole?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I kind of flew by the seat of my pants. There was no pre-planning for any of it. I just wrote it as it came to mind, and the story developed. So there's definitely parts that probably aren't as cohesive as they could be. Some timeline stuff may not be so great. There are some characters that are probably not used to the best of their capabilities or are completely unnecessary. So there's a lot of tweaking I think that can go down. Plus, since it took me 4 years to write, my skills as a writer have developed a lot.
And probably your sensibilities.
Yeah. So like the first few chapters compared to the last few chapters the writing style is noticeably different. So I'd like to kind of bring everything together so it seems like I wrote all of it. And not, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird reading the first few chapters. Like I wouldn't write it this way. I'd write it completely differently. But among all the other things, all the conventions and Game Break and all that other stuff that I talked about, I know, and not suitable for word images, the biggest thing for me is definitely finishing that story. Getting all the chapters written so I can say this is done and start working on editing it and getting it ready to be possibly published next year. Hopefully. Maybe. All right.
Yeah, that's definitely a worthy accomplishment to point out. Well done. How about the vibrating one?
Let's see, we're doing pretty good on the coffee. But so this last year has been sort of weird for me. A lot of it has been, I don't want to say negative, but sort of 2015 was a year of transition. And I think I'm basically done with said transition. So overall, the idea of transitioning, I think, is the most important thing that I have accomplished. Uh, if we want to get specific, I think just going to conventions and actually talking to the people at the conventions. Last year, I was very timid and scared, and I literally hid in the hotel room and didn't come out for hours and hours at a time, much to the rest of the group's chagrin, especially when they needed water and sandwiches. And I
Well,
was
we are
up,
very terrifying people after all.
yes. The audience also, the attendees, uh, just the whole vibe. I didn't get. It was never my thing, and I was scared, and anxiety was high, and I ran away most of the time. But this year, I was better. I still did, especially early in the year, more hotel hanging out, but at least I had everyone on quick dial and came and checked up on people every now and then. But I think towards the end of the year, I actually walked around the convention floor and actually talked to people. The first time I needed CJ as a chaperone, usually, I'd be like, CJ, come walk with me around the halls. And he would take me to and fro. Uh, and then eventually, when I got comfortable with walking around the actual booths, I started talking to people. And that was really when I realized what I wanted Inspire the Muse to be, and that's talking to real people, real creative people that are out there doing the work now, and talking to them about their creative process and what inspires them and what their tips and tricks are and everything else. Because everyone has a story, and that was a huge realization to me. So going to conventions was definitely my big accomplishment.
And just look at how many there are next year to play around with.
Yes, I'm excited. Also scared, but also excited. There's going to be plenty to do and plenty of people to talk to. It's just a matter of going out there and doing it and making sure your batteries are charged in your cameras and phones.
Oh, yeah, I need to do that. Good reminder. And how about Calvin?
Uh, Whereas Justin said this year was a year of transition for him. This year was a year of rebuilding. Definitely rebuilding.
Look,
Um,
just because I set the World Tree on fire doesn't mean the whole year has to be rebuilding it.
well, it didn't help. Damn it.
That's what you get for giving me fire abilities.
That's why you're not allowed on the server again until I figure out how to revoke those. Alright. I digress. Rebuilding in terms of emotionally and physically too, dealing with um, some unexpected health issues, but I'm more or less back together. Back together as one can be. I've lost 25 pounds, almost 30 pounds. Good grief. Since the year began, I don't need the medication anymore, which is an even bigger help because, good lord, I don't want to deal with the digestive nightmares that stupid medication gave me. Like, that's the best way to put it. Digestive nightmares. But outside of health-wise, this actually was a pretty solid year. Putting together just a ton of music. And CJ knows like my usual output for the year is like 2, maybe 3, maybe.
Sometimes one.
A lot of years is 1.
even if I just keep poking you. You got anything else yet? How about now? How about now? Now?
No.
But I need more music.
I need more time to write music, and then I don't write music because no ideas come, or I just scrap all the ideas that I did have. But yeah, I think I've written like I've written like an album's worth of music this year, which is insane. Like that's for me, that's like 5 years worth of music right there. In a normal year. So that was a lot of fun. I got to do a bit of traveling. Got to do some like actual honest driving in the rain at night
Twice.
in the dark all the way through Virginia. Don't know how. I, I mean, I'm pretty confident in my driving skills, but I have no clue how we survived that one, especially given how much it rained. I mean, on the way back, it wasn't so bad. It was nice enough to rain toward the end, within like maybe the last hour or so. But I mean, driving 7 hours in torrential downpours.
I missed all of that. I slept through both of it.
So that was definitely exciting, but um, the driving was worth it. Got to experience a new state, met a whole bunch of wonderful people. And then there was all the conventions that happened this year, and getting an opportunity to uh, chat with chat with various interesting people and various very wild characters.
Yeah, I didn't think to look at the stats of just how many interviews we got this year, but a fair amount.
I say we did okay for ourselves.
And we even got to meet some old friends who we've interviewed previously, like Wayward Raven.
Yep. It was nice seeing them again. Another exciting moment was um, what was Veterans Day? Was that last month? But yeah, I got a chance to march with my company in the Veterans Day parade, and I got lucky and I got a media pass. Don't Can't figure out how that happened, but I got a media pass and I got to is basically be like play photojournalist for the day, like running up and down the parade route, flashing my media badge at police so they could wave me through without giving me any problems. Like that was a huge confidence boost for me. So that's something I can definitely take into 2016 and take into future conventions. Hopefully, I won't be too terribly obnoxious about it. Oh, that was 2015. 2016. Uh, More music is gonna happen, most definitely. I do want to pick up the guitar again, as my fingers have gotten really dumb and I don't like it. So I need to do something about that. Pick up my scales again. Pick up my scales, my modes, get some good figure exercises. See if I can get decent again. I'm going to attempt to be even more bold than I was last year, which I can't really say was too terribly bold, but um, given given how my few leaps of faith have worked out last year, I think I could take a few more chances and see where those could take me. And a lot of other good things down the pipe I can't think of right now, even though I tried to write it down. But good stuff. Good stuff. Positive thinking. Continuing my road down good health. It's nice to be able to wear adult size medium instead of extra large.
Speaking of that shirt, I want it. Not the specific one you're wearing. That would be a little weird. But the same one in my size. Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that in a small.
A Racing Stripes a Racing Stripes T-shirt. Where did I get that from? I want to say I got it from a Shirt Punch, but
It's just subtle enough to not be like totally obnoxious. But for the people that are paying attention, it's a really cool reward. I like subtlety in my shirts.
And it's a nod to the various fandoms.
Yep. Millennium Falcon obviously in first place.
I don't know, I'm still a fan of the design I saw earlier today that just had a picture of the Enterprise on it and then #1 Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I saw that one earlier today.
Quick aside, speaking of Star Trek, did you see the new Star Trek trailer?
Yes.
We should discuss that during the news and highlights part, because I have a lot to say about that trailer.
I look forward to it. But first, we need to talk about next year, because there's a lot of changes coming. We are going to be busy. Now, the biggest thing is this is the final episode for the year because we are taking at least 2 weeks off. Not just for a holiday sabbatical or anything, but we are going to stay busy and start creating new content for next year because we are evolving into a brand new company. We've hinted about it, we've talked about it, we've waxed poetic about it. We are pushing forward as fast and hard as we can, all innuendo aside, to make that happen for January 2016. And I highlighted Justin too late. Nuts. So yes, the big change that is happening is Full Coverage Writers is effectively going to be dissolved and integrated into Inspire the Muse. So all of our current endeavors are going to be migrated into Inspire the Muse, rebranded, tweaked, revised, upgraded, along with some new series that we have in the works that we're excited for. So to kind of give you a base list of what is going to be sticking around is we are still going to have a weekly podcast. We are still going to be doing Game Break. We are still going to be doing Muse Food. But we're hoping to bring back reviews, not just book reviews. We're looking into other things to review and how that would work. We're looking into a travel and adventure series that I know Justin is excited for. We are looking into some sketch ideas, some articles, some other potentially semi-animated series, or at least stuff that will take a bit of time to figure out. Not to mention conventions, events, festivals, parties, shenanigans, all the things.
the best part about all the things is that now everything that I do, I can document and show the world through Inspire the Muse. Because now that we're not just focusing on writing, and we've expanded our breadth substantially, I've been able to bring everything together, and basically I'm excited to go out there and start documenting everything. I've always been poking around at writing articles and doing movie reviews, and the story cards is a great idea that we haven't fleshed out. But there's tons of opportunity now, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with everybody. The crew, the audience, my family, friends, really pimping the death out of this new production company.
No murder.
But pimping's okay, according to you. Totally fine.
There might be some small print related to that somewhere in the employee handbook. Have to double check that.
I don't think we have to, because it's just falling under the laws of the state. Probably don't need to call it out specifically.
So of all the things that we've kind of bantered about for 2016, what are other people excited for? Since Justin's kind of already provided his input, although he's allowed to provide more if he so chooses.
I have more.
He's looking forward to being done grinding that coffee.
Oh my God! Why did I choose the finest grind setting? So 2 more highlights for me for 2016. The first one being, if you listen to the Not Suitable for Word Ninjas podcast, I go through my Tranquil 2015 and Tranquil 2016, which are sort of the roadmaps of the year. And I think I covered 2015 and 2016 on the last podcast I was on about 2 weeks ago. But there was one significant change since then, and since the recording of the Not Suitable, and that is the way that I'm focusing on writing. Ironically enough, now that we're not focused on writing as Inspire the Muse, now I'm going to be focused on writing. Perfect timing.
It has to be different.
Perfect timing. And I've gotten hooked up with a critiquing group. I'm going to be taking some fun group online classes. I'm going to be focusing not on my magnum opus, but on shorter stories, getting more into the craft, stop focusing on the end goal, and making progression. I'm not going to paint the Sistine Chapel on my first day. I got to start with my sketches. I got to start, small and work my way up. So that's what I'm focusing on next year. Instead of focusing on the big goal and then failing year after year after year, I'm just going step by step and going through the process. And then hopefully by the end of the year, I'll paint the Sistine Chapel. Like with spray paint. Like a Banksy.
Yeah, I didn't know that they needed to repaint the Sistine Chapel.
They don't. Remember that painting of, I think it was of Jesus that was ruined and then
a bit of touch-up.
Repaired? It'll be like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing as far as the positive. The other thing I added to the show notes is something that I've been fighting with for a few years now. And I think everybody has this feeling, and usually always, but it comes and goes in extremeness.
I'm glad I looked at the show notes, because I thought that you were just going to go with "you're fighting with me."
No.
Because that's not going to change. We're still going to be fighting even 5 years from now, probably.
Yes, especially 5 years from now. And that's feeling like a fraud. And again, I think all people go through this, especially early on in their career, thinking that, I'm doing all this stuff, but, no one cares, and, I shouldn't even be in the engineering business because I don't know anything. Everything that I do is basically wrong, and what's the point? And then you realize that that's actually part of the growing and learning experience. You should think everything that you do is wrong, so that way you can improve. Maybe you don't actually think that it's all wrong, but kind of look at it with a critical eye. And
Always be willing to question. Don't take it for granted.
yes, and I tell all of the people at my company, whenever they're looking at somebody else's content, always assume that everything was done wrong. And this is very important in the engineering field because oftentimes it was done wrong, or it could have been done better. But oftentimes it was actually just literally wrong. And looking at some of my old stuff, some of that stuff was wrong too. It's just the way it works. That's why there's a review process and things get tested before they go out into space.
Literally.
Yes, literally for a lot of my stuff. Yay, increased NASA budget this year. And that fraud goes into the creativity space as well, and through the Inspire the Muse stuff. You know, why am I providing content to inspire the Muse? Do I even have the right to provide any of this content?
Because I'm your boss and I gave you homework.
It's interesting that you say boss, because starting next year that's not technically the case anymore. Anyways, and then writing also. You know, CJ might have picked up on my negativity at the writing party that we had last week, and how I thought, you know, maybe I'm a crappy writer and maybe I shouldn't be writing. And it's time to stop feeling like that. It's time to just write and then look at my writing critically, look at other people's writing critically, and make my own decisions about my own writing instead of just assuming everyone else is going to think it sucks. Because I've read some pretty bad writing, and I know I can do better. I just have to actually do better. And the litmus test can be, you know, I start actually sharing my writing with other people. And it'll be nice to actually work on shorter pieces because I can share them more frequently and actually share them with my family because they've been begging me to give them writing. But everything that I've written up to now has been either NaNoWriMo, which is not ready for anyone to see ever, or it's been my magnum opus, which is Act 3 is in shambles and needs to be completely rewritten. And I don't think I'm a capable enough writer to really tell the story that I need to with the gravitas that I want. So I'm tabling that, and I'm just going to focus on actually writing. Just for the sake of writing, reading, critiquing, not feeling like a crappy person, and just getting it all done. I am a good engineer. I'm probably a good writer. That still remains to be seen. And I'm a good content provider, and I think I'm a good friend and a good person for this group. At least I hope other people think so. And that's one of the big things that 2015 provided is new friends, new opportunities, new people to connect with, and that includes the crew. And I'm really looking forward to what 2016 is going to bring.
So here's just my input on that, just specifically for the writing, because I don't know engineering to save my life, figuratively and literally. That would end badly. If you write, you're a writer. If you're willing to actually look at your writing critically and try and figure out how to make it more effective or engaging for the reader, that makes you a good writer. If you actually take the time to revise it, clean it up, polish it, and make it an engaging read for readers and you get that feedback, you've become a good author. It may sound simple, but it's not easy. That's where time and perseverance comes in.
And that's what 2016 is for. And that includes all my goals for 2016, even my personal goals. All of my tranquil 2016 stuff. It's all about slow burn, don't stop. Sometimes you'll screw up. Sometimes it'll be very badly. But you just have to keep going and never stop until you march into the grave. At least that's my plan. Hopefully later than sooner.
Just just because you may make mistakes or do something wrong doesn't mean you fail. It just means you found a way of doing it incorrectly. And it'll just take a little longer to figure out the correct way. Or a more effective way.
Right. And that kind of relates to what we're doing. We're coming up with more effective ways to share ourselves and share creativity as a whole. And we're evolving because of that. And it's going to be super exciting. And I think it's going to be not as painful as it sounds on paper when I look at the long list of things that we have to accomplish.
There's just a few things left on the to-do list.
Like grind this coffee.
Electric grinder, Justin. Electric grinder.
Okay, I wasn't going to bring this up, but now Will's forced my hand. So I bought this coffee grinder. I hope we didn't plan on discussing 2016 anymore. I bought this coffee grinder because I was doing cold brew coffee, which requires extremely coarse grind and long steep times. And an electric grinder isn't going to get you that. They're going to be like medium to fine. So I bought a hand grinder, and when I was doing the coarse grind coffee, it only took me like 10 minutes to grind all the beans. Because it was basically like I might as well have just put in a mortar and pestle at that point. And now that it's winter, I don't want to drink cold brew anymore. I want to drink espresso. I got an AeroPress, and I want to make my espresso, but that requires a super fine grain. And man, it takes so much longer. I do plan on maybe getting an electric grinder, but for now, this gives a pretty good grind, and I'm happy to engage physically in something instead of being lazy. Just because I'm fat and need to lose weight. So the more calories I can burn, even if it's turning a crank, then the better my life is.
Silver lining.
Yep. So to 2016.
And that coffee.
By the time I'm done grinding the beans, it'll probably be 2016.
Well, while Justin turns his crank, does anyone else want to chime in regards to 2016 endeavors and aspirations?
Sure. Let's see. Obviously, next year, like I said, I'm going to do a lot of editing and revising for My Roommate's a Stripper, because I definitely want it to be publishable and not in the crappy, oh yeah, I wrote this and I have some extra cash, so I'm going to self-publish it digitally for 99 cents a copy. No, I want to actually review it as many times as is necessary, maybe have other people review it, preferably even have a professional editor look through it if I can get the funding for that.
We do know a few at this point.
Yes, but I still need the funding. I just have the connections. I just need the cash. So that I can actually put out something that I feel is decent and I can be proud of, as opposed to just throwing something out there. I don't want any of the scenes from my story to appear in 2016's listing of the worst sex scenes of the year. So that's my goal there.
But then we'd be able to review it on a podcast.
You can review it on the podcast for it being well written instead of poorly written.
Or add it to the upgraded panel of how to actually write erotic scenes properly.
Possibly. Let's see, I want to do that. I want to start writing the next novel that I've already been working on in my head for a while already. I just actually want to sit down and figure out the plot in advance this time instead of just going by the seat of my pants, so that I at least have something going in so that, I don't know, it'll be easier to write, less editing time. I don't know. It just feels like perhaps planning out in advance. It's supposedly something that's helpful, according to all the writers we've talked to. Give that plot in 60 minutes worksheet a go over.
Yeah, it's still on the website.
I've already downloaded it. And mostly I just want to improve the quality of all my creative endeavors. Writing, editing, audio editing, video editing, making the game breaks, just everything. I want to work on just getting better at all of it, improving, figuring out new techniques and whatnot just to make things better, more efficient, and more interesting.
Yeah, you've pretty much been the MVP of Game Break for the entire run of its series since we started it this year. So I can say that.
Please. You've got all those visual novels.
You have all of the other long-running series.
I mean, Bioshock and Bioshock and Bioshock. That's all I've been playing is Bioshock.
Still counts.
I suppose. I'm
And
going to be doing more of that coming up probably later this week in preparation for next year.
and we are trying to get that finale episode posted, but YouTube is playing shenanigans with us.
I don't think it's YouTube as much as Google. Because my copy is perfectly fine.
Google
There's
also
no
owns
shenanigans.
YouTube.
There's no shenanigans in my copy. But then I uploaded it, and the copy that both Calvin and CJ have bork out towards the end, and as such won't upload to YouTube. And now today I can't seem to get it to upload to the copy to upload to Google Drive again because it actually was almost halfway done and then restarted from the beginning again.
I call shenanigans.
Indeed. So it'll get up there soon, eventually.
We'll make it happen.
Indeed.
Or else.
Speaking of Game Break, I want to start getting into the swing of Game Break as well. Given the generous discounts that Steam usually gives around this time, I got a fair share of games and a visual novel that I'd been shamelessly waiting for the price to drop on.
Which one was that again?
An octave higher. There was a price drop on that during sometime last month, and I jumped on it, and now I have it. And at some point, I'm going to take a look at it and record it while I look at it, and decide if I want to give various voices to it while I read it.
Do it.
I
It's
mean,
fun.
Yeah, that alone seems like half the fun.
I know I am by no means a professional voice actor, but I do have fun with the various voices.
Hopefully, it'll keep my attention and won't last nearly as long as Neverending Economica.
I thought Never-Ending Summer was long, or Everlasting Summer, but World End Economica has surprised me. And I do have World End Economica Episode 2. So that'll probably be next year's endeavor.
Wait, so you've been going through this visual novel, screaming about how long it is, and there's a part 2 that you still have to do?
It's a trilogy. The third one is being translated currently.
My God.
I'm fairly certain I know where the first episode is going to leave off. So I don't know anything about episode 2 other than I have it, or episode 3 for that matter at this point. As long as it is, I am enjoying it. It is a very interesting plot. And it's from the author of Spice and Wolf. So I like supporting authors of other series that I've enjoyed. Although I do have a half dozen other. Oh, good lord, no. I have a dozen visual novels now because Steam sales.
Am I gonna have to ban visual novels much like I banned regular books?
I don't need more because some of those are just
That's
as long as
never
they go
stopped you
last in the
before.
summer.
That's never stopped you before.
Yeah, I probably still have another dozen on my wish list, but only if they go on sale.
That's not the point. You
These
know
I'm
sales
actually
happen
going
multiple
through.
times in the course of a decade, right?
At least the visual novels are something that I am slowly progressing through and actually accomplishing. And it is a learning experience because I'm learning about visual novel plots. I'm becoming hopefully slightly better at voice acting or at least voice consistency for characters and other aspects of video recording and editing and all that stuff. So,
A worthwhile endeavor.
yes. I forget who was talking about what before we derailed ourselves.
I was talking about Game Break.
Continue.
But yeah, Knocked of Higher, that's definitely down the pipe for Game Break. And also down the pipe for Game Break, the new intro whenever I can finish it, for the love of Christ. This thing is taking forever.
Well, if we stop distracting you with all the other things or brand new ideas while we're gathering, like we did last night.
Yeah. But that was well worth it, though. Let's see. What else for 2016? Yeah, I mentioned attempting more leaps of faith. That's something I really want to follow through on. And speaking of following through, another goal for 2016 is learning to follow through more.
That's one aspect that most of us tend to overlook or forget.
Yeah. Like, there's a few things I missed out on this year because I just straight up forgot to follow through, and I need to stop that because like I'm not one of those people that suffer from FOMO, but there's like when there's opportunities that arise, some things you gotta just jump on it. So I'm hoping to uh, start following through on different things more, and just that's just a part of my ongoing fear conquering.
Oh, I thought you meant following through, like finishing things that you started, like booking hotel rooms for conventions, for example. And but you're talking about following through on your own ideas and ideals and opportunities that present themselves that you promise yourself you're going to get into and do.
Right, right.
We've never had problems with hotel room reservations or
Well,
anything like that.
to be fair, we haven't had problems. Everything has worked out. There was just a recent lucky, friendly reminder that I'm glad happened because that would have been awkward later. But we're all good now. It's all fixed.
Everything went better than expected.
Yay.
I can't think of anything else for 2016. Just like most other things, I will fly by the seat of my pants for if anything else comes along,
Yeah, we're pretty good at that at this point.
and learn to follow through if something comes along.
I'm sure plenty will come along. Anything else that people would like to highlight before we migrate to the highlight reel? Or are we all talked out?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything.
And if the listeners haven't had enough of that talk, go check out the NSFWN finale. But in the meantime, hey, let's go to the highlights reel. Because we have a few things to highlight for this week. First of which is an interesting article over on Wired about the history of crime photography. We're not going to go into great detail on this article, but I just thought it was interesting that they've put together a bit more detail into the history of crime photography and what was involved, how it kind of went about. And I know it's relatively complicated and intricate to pull off because when you're doing photography for crime scenes, you have to be pretty specific not to mess with any of the evidence while photographing it and all that stuff. So for those of you who might be writing crime series or noirs, or as with most other writers, are just curious about random things involved that could be involved with writing, it's worth taking a quick look.
A good portion of this article also talked about crime photography in progress and collections of photography that were taken. There was a big section about the concentration camps and some genocides that were well documented by the perpetrators with photographic evidence. And that going through those photos is very heartbreaking and difficult, and they stand out more than general photographs because of the history behind them. And it was kind of cool, getting into that, looking at culture and humanity through photographs and taking a look at the time and the setting and the culture surrounding when and why this picture was taken.
It's well worth a quick read if you have a moment. And the link is in the show notes for this episode over on fcwriters.com.
And don't worry, there are no grisly examples of photographs in the article that I saw.
Yeah, it's safe for work. And wrapping up our year with more book bundles, because apparently 5 book bundles over on Story Bundle just wasn't enough. They had to add a 6th for the month. This is just getting silly. The latest one is New Worlds, which is set to introduce readers to a bunch of new worlds and mostly trilogies and collections. I'm not going to lie, I kind of want to buy this bundle just because of how many trilogies and series are on here. It is well worth the monetary investment. As with story bundles, you pay what you want for the primary tier, and then you pay the secondary price, or the minimum price to hit the secondary tier. And I do believe the secondary price is 20, or is it 15? $15 and more gets you the second tier. But let's start with what you would get for just $1 and up. You would get, first off, a full trilogy from Bradley P. Beaulieu.
Beaulieu.
Yeah, that. I can't do those types of names very well. But you would get The Winds of Kalakovo, The Straits of Galesh, and The Flames of Shaddam Kore in that trilogy. You would get the Fractured Era series, books 1 through 3, by Autumn Kalquist. Rock Band Fights Evil Book 1, Hellhound on My Trail by D.J. Butler. Rock Band Fights Evil Book 2, Snake Handlin' Man, and Book 3, Crow Jane, all by D.J. Butler. You would also get Mythology Books 1 through 3, which is Mythology 101, Mythology Abroad, and Higher Mythology, all three by Jody Lynn Nye. That's all for whatever price you so choose. So that is 4 trilogies right there. That's pretty cost effective, and that's pretty tempting just by itself. If you were to go $15 or more, you would get the Manhattan Ghost Story trilogy by T.M. Wright, the Crystal Doors trilogy, Book 1, Island Realm, Book 2, Ocean Realm, and Book 3, Sky Realm by Rebecca Moesta and Kevin J. Anderson. You would get Immortal, King Wolf, and The Machineries of Silence, all by Stephen Seville. Also, the Roads of Heaven trilogy by Melissa Scott. The Ebenezer trilogy by Craig Shaw Gardner. The Spectral Book of Horror Stories, edited by Mark Morris. Albion Fay and Leytonstone. Oh, Albion Fay also by Mark Morris, and then Leytonstone by Stephen Volk. That's a lot of books in one bundle. And as with all the other bundles over on Story Bundle, at the moment, they all run until the end of the month and year. So if you're in need of bundles, or if you want to gift some books to someone for the holidays, this is your opportunity, because they have something for everyone at this point. And yet, if that is not enough, we can roll over to Humble Bundle for their new book bundle, which is a celebration of Boom Studios. 10 years worth of Boom Studios. This is a pretty entertaining bundle. And just as with other bundles, the minimum price gets you the first tier, pay what you want. If you were to pay an average currently of $11.55, you would unlock the second tier. And if you were to do $15 or more, you would unlock the third tier. If you felt like just paying whatever you want, you would get Clive Barker's Hellraiser Masterpieces, Volume 1, Lumberjanes, Volume 1, Bill and Ted's Most Triumphant Return, Issues 1 through 6, Hacktivist, Volume 1, Bravest Warriors, Volumes 1 through 2, Sons of Anarchy, Volume 1, RoboCop, Volume 1, Steed and Mrs. Peel, A Very Civil Armageddon, Volume 1, Bee and Puppycat, Volume 1, and Irredeemable, Volumes 1 and 2. That's a pretty solid group of comics just right there. But if that's not enough, you could pay the $11.55 minimum to also get Hellraiser Masterpieces Volume 2, Lumberjanes Volume 2, Hacktivist Volume 2, Bravest Warriors, Issues 3 through 5, Bee and Puppycat, Issues 5 through 9, Sons of Anarchy, Volumes 2 through 3, RoboCop Dead or Alive, Volume 1, Steed and Mrs. Peel, Volumes 2 through 3, and Steed and Mrs. Peel, We're Needed, Issues 1 through 3. But if you are a completionist and you want even more, or to wrap up some of these series, you would have to go to the $15 tier to acquire Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep Omnibus, which is issues 1 through 24, Lumberjanes, issues 9 through 20, Bravest Warriors, issues 21 through 36, Irredeemable, volumes 3 through 7, Sons of Anarchy, issues 15 through 25, RoboCop, The Human Element, and RoboCop Dead or Alive issues 5 through 12. And this bundle just kicked off today as of this recording, so you still have 2 weeks to go check this one out. Now, seeing as I've been put on a book buying ban because someone is cranky whenever I buy books, I'll try to be good and not buy them when he's paying attention.
Be careful, because I'll be paying attention even more because the coffee's done grinding.
Ah, nuts. Why don't you make another batch?
Because I only need 2 shots of espresso, and it takes 20 minutes to make a double shot of espresso.
Good to know. As always, anything that we highlight in the highlights reel, the links are in the show notes for this episode. So in the future, if you want to check them out, by all means, go to the show notes, see what we've highlighted and talked about.
There's one highlight that we didn't add yet that we need to talk about still.
Oh, yeah. I actually forgot. Thank you for bringing it up. Take it away.
The Star Trek trailer.
You loved it, right?
So, Star Trek has had its own rocky past. One might say only about 50% of the movies are good, and most of the Next Generation movies are quite bad. Some might say that. I'm not that person that says all that. These are just things that I hear. Don't write me angry letters about which movie's your favorite and how you think First Contact is the best movie in the whole series. Because I'm not
send
getting
your opinions to Justin. His email address is
no, and I will not engage. You can bother me on Twitter if you really have to. I could use some more followers. So the Star Trek movies have always been more action-y than philosophical. We know that. We've come to expect that. It's been like that since basically the third movie. And so having an action-based Star Trek movie, fine. You know, the new reboot, first one was great. Second one I haven't seen yet, but I heard it was fine.
I would say it's worth seeing if you enjoyed the first one.
I just haven't gotten around to it, not for lack of wanting. This third one, however, how many of the crew has seen the trailer?
May.
I saw the first few seconds before I was allowed to skip it on YouTube.
I didn't know they existed.
So the first thing that needs to be brought up and addressed is the background song during the whole trailer. And that's the Beastie Boys' Sabotage through the entire trailer. Now, there's a tie-in to the first movie where that's the song that's playing in the car when pre-Captain Kirk is driving it, and does he drive it off a cliff? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the song that's playing. And then the trailer opens up with that song playing again on the Starship Enterprise, and then him going, "Oh, it's a great song." But the song doesn't stop. It goes through the whole song, and then it's a Star Trek trailer. And you're like, what? And then you see all these action scenes, and apparently this Captain Kirk doesn't know how to keep starships from being eaten alive and torn apart and exploded, because it's very apparent based on this trailer that he destroys yet another, massive starship.
To be fair, in this rebooted universe, he hasn't destroyed one of the ships yet. At least not completely.
Not completely, but he doesn't do a great job in keeping them in good order. Somebody on Reddit posted that there's absolutely no way that the damaged ship from, I think, the second one could possibly be repaired, and that it was at the point where they could have probably kept one of the engines and just put it into a brand new starship because fuck it.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that one.
So, and then I saw, coming across the screen in text, from the creators of Fast and Furious franchise. And I was like, oh dear God, no.
It is an odd way. I know that is a thing that trailers do in regard to pimping out who's working on a movie to kind of justify, hey, here's what they've done which theoretically proves their skills.
Now, I love the Fast and the Furious franchise.
I'm about 4 movies behind at this point on that
You've
franchise.
only seen the bad ones then.
Okay.
They've become superhero movies. I think I've discussed this on the podcast before, and definitely during my Nano live streams. It doesn't. No, it should not. Star Trek should not be a Fast and Furious movie.
I
Please,
sincerely
no.
hope that it doesn't go down that road or in that tone and style, because I don't really see the connection between Fast and Furious versus Star Trek. That was a disconnect for me.
Yes, and Dr. McCoy does make a funny quip in the movie, and
That was fitting.
that's fine. That's fitting. But what is going on in that trailer? What is the plot of this movie? I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm not supposed to.
The plot.
Captain Kirk jumps a bike over a ramp in the middle of some supposedly very inhabited forest, inhabited by robots, by the way, and drones.
Yeah.
And
The plot points we seem to have been hinted at are the Enterprise gets beaten up all to hell again. The crew is scattered and semi-defeated, or at least beaten up pretty hard, so they need to regroup and regather. As far as I can tell, a new alien race is introduced, because no one on the internet seems to be able to identify who the race in the trailer is related to. There's very few spoilers in this trailer, which I actually don't mind personally.
yes, unlike the recent Batman versus Superman trailer, which basically ruined the entire movie with its massive spoiler at the end.
I actually haven't seen the full trailer. I've
Do
just seen
not
screen
see
caps.
the new trailer. Just the movie's going to be pretty good, I think, as
All I
long as
know
you
is-
don't watch the trailer.
I know the 3 main players and the main enemy. I don't know anything beyond that. And I don't really care to.
How do you know the main enemy if? Oh, that main enemy. Yes. Well, so you
Or at
don't
least
know the other
The
main
main
enemy.
enemy presented during the reveal of the 3 main characters.
Right. Okay. So that trailer left a bad taste in my mouth. But you know what trailer did not leave a bad taste in my mouth? Is the new Independence Day trailer. Yes to this Independence Day movie.
I am
All in.
really hopeful for that one.
It's going to be good. It doesn't need Will Smith. It would be better with the older Will Smith. I don't think new Scientology Will Smith has what it takes to play this role anymore. But this movie is going to be awesome. And if nothing else, it's going to be a disaster porn movie. And I can get behind those.
Those are always a fun time.
2012 is still one of my favorite disaster movies of all time.
Still need to watch that one. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Right adjacent to The Day After Tomorrow. Pretty good disaster movie. I haven't seen San Andreas yet. So, yes, disaster movie. If nothing else, it will be that.
So, to sum it up, Star Trek trailer kind of leaves us wanting and curious and confused as to just how this is all going to play out. It seems, considering some of the people who are coordinating it. But the Independence Day trailer tells us enough of the story that we're okay with it. There are definitely enough nods to the first one. It doesn't really matter that much, at least to me, what the full plot is or how it plays out. It's just going to be entertaining.
Yep. And maybe the Star Trek movie will be too. But maybe that's not what I want out of a Star Trek franchise.
I think that's what's frustrating most Star Trek fans. They want a series at this point. Because for good or bad, the reboot has brought Star Trek back into mainstream media to the level where a series should be feasible.
I may do a Star Trek Next Generation podcast where I watch every single Star Trek Next Generation episode one by one with the new advanced Blu-ray remasters, where you can plainly see that Data is wearing probably the thickest makeup that they could find, because that's what happens when you reshoot things in HD or reprint them in HD.
There are actually a couple good Trek podcasts out there that occasionally do episode reviews, but some of those episodes hold up better than others. Some not so much.
Especially the first season.
They were figuring things out.
Like Riker's hair.
Riker was figuring himself out.
It seemed like he was figuring himself out emotionally, sexually, physically, mentally.
Before we put our fellow co-hosts to sleep, perhaps we should move on. Which means it's time for productivity and inspiration. And since NSFWN finale and our discussion point pretty much covered anything I really wanted to talk about, I just had a quote from the Voice Acting Mastery Podcast, episode 107, which was a couple of weeks ago now. But at the time, it really resonated with me, and it's something I want to keep in mind going forward at times when things get difficult. But one of the guests on the show said, you and only you can decide whether you will be a success. And while it's very easy to just pan that and point out all the ways of how just saying or wanting to be a success doesn't necessarily mean you will be a success, I want to take it more as, no, it's not easy. It's not straightforward, and there's no set formula to create success. Each person out there is going to find their own skills, their own interests, their own abilities, and creative powers differently. But to actively decide, I want to succeed in, personally, stuff like Inspire the Muse, I'm going to focus on what skills I have, what abilities I have, and what I'm missing to accomplish that and work towards it. Because I want that to be a success. And I think that's what will, that active thought of, I want to push this to be a success, how do I make that happen, and actually keep on persevering and pushing people will help make that happen. Because look at how much we've done in 5 years with full coverage writers.
One of my favorite pieces of advice for people who are wondering if they should follow their particular dream, whether they want to be an actor or whether they want to be a writer. My favorite piece of advice is don't follow your dreams. Because what this does is it plays into a little bit of reverse psychology where if I tell you don't follow that particular dream and you say, oh, you're right, and then you don't follow through, then you probably weren't going to make it. But if I tell you, don't follow your dream, don't become an actor, don't be an author, it's too hard, it's too oversaturated, don't bother, you'll never amount to anything, and then you fly in the face of that, and you do it anyways, then you are going to succeed.
Yeah, that's my general reaction when you tell me not to do things. F that, I'm going to find a way to make it happen.
And then you will succeed in frustrating me to no end. You will succeed.
Yeah, that's what's inspired me recently. I don't really have much productivity to discuss beyond what we've already talked about in multiple formats.
Yeah, similar to me, I also basically rehashed what was on the other podcast and what was on this podcast. I planned out my entire 2016, promptly changed it, and I'll be focusing on writing. And making a double espresso because I have to write a report right after this that's due on Friday, but there's a company lunch on Friday. So I don't want to have to come after that hungover to write, so I need to get it done basically today and tomorrow. So that's my life.
I haven't. Excuse me. I haven't been up to too much this past week either, other than just more planning for the next roommate story. I planned out a little plot for a short story I want to write later this month, and I doodled some art stuff, practiced some art, partly for a gift for a friend, and partly because I saw a prompt online of draw this, and I was like, okay, now I have the thought in my head. I'm just going to try and draw it. So I did. Yay.
Nice.
But pretty much it for me.
Well, as for me, this continued cobbling together ideas for the website. Put together some music relating to the website, as well as for Infinity's Light. It's always a fun thing. And in unrelated and non-creative related stuff, we're now on week 4 of Operation For Frack's Sake. Where the hell is the mother blasted car title? I'm dying here and want to drive my fracking car. It's just a 2-ton paperweight sitting in a garage right now. Seriously though, how long does it take to print a freaking written mail off a freaking sheet of paper? Come on, Georgia. Get the letter out. You're killing me here.
It would take a shorter time for us to drive down there, pick it up in person, and drive back.
Seriously, like, this has been going on since the end of November. Like, all I ask is that this title gets here before your minicon. That's all I ask. I don't care if I drive it, if I don't drive it at any point up until then. If I could get this title by your minicon, I think I can survive. But it's killing me right now.
To take your mind off of the pain and agony of not having the title to your car, I accidentally found myself on the Star Wars movie website recently. And the first thing that I saw was a loading bar. And I went, oh no. It was a website programmed entirely in Flash. Or probably Silverlight maybe at this point. I'm not sure. But either way, when you see a loading bar when you open up a website, that's a bad sign. And then instead of having like things that you can obviously click on, it was like scroll left and right to the various buildings in this panoramic. And I'm just like, no. And I didn't have my speakers plugged in, but I wonder if there's music auto playing in the background. And so that when you said making music for the website, I was thinking, oh, are you going to make it like a MySpace page where somebody logs in and then they immediately start hearing music? Because please don't do that. I will hack our own website and turn that shit off.
Unfortunately, there's still websites that still do that. And I don't know why.
They're catering to a very specific audience.
Well, that audience can go kick rocks.
Into their own mouths.
Yes. I'm glad I don't have to deal with Flash anymore. Ever again. Even Adobe's like, alright, we get it. Flash is dead.
We're done.
We'll let it go.
HTML5 for life. WebM videos, GIF-V. Bring on all of the fast-loading video and imagery.
I, for one, welcome all of that. Especially HTML5 and the canvas tag that I have no clue how to use, but will someday. All right, code talk done. And I'm done complaining about the car for this hour.
This hour only has 9 minutes left, by the way.
Hopefully, come 2016's first podcast, you'll be able to say you finally have it.
We'll see. I don't know, man.
Until then, though, that is the end of our show.
So, CJ.
Yes.
We probably should have discussed this before the podcast, but I figured I'd bring it up live on the air because I think it's probably important. Should people keep this feed up, and will we be posting an update to where they can find all the new information when it's live via this current feed?
I was going to fit that into my outro, but if we need to do that now, I guess we can do that now.
Whoops.
As we've mentioned, this is the final episode of the year, and we are still having a podcast next year. We are still determining the logistics for it, but it is looking like the live streams will be scaled back to special events only. And the podcast is going to be pre-recorded and cleaned up and made all nice and shiny and entertaining for you all. But still a weekly podcast. I don't know about logistics to getting it onto this feed specifically, or if we'll need to create a fresh one. If we need to create a fresh one, we will add a final audio piece to the feed to let people know what's going on, where to find it, so future peoples can find all the future episodes.
The answer to that is most likely yes.
Most likely yes to which part?
There will be a new feed.
Okay. Once we have the info, we'll make that known so people can track down the new podcast feed. And I already blanked on what the rest of Justin's concerns were.
That was the only one.
Okay.
Sorry for reorganizing your outro.
Always gotta be difficult.
Just think we'll be able to edit this out in the future now.
No, that'll just go in the bloopers reel.
No. So many bloopers.
And then there'll be animated versions of the bloopers with a little chibi Justin in there with a frowny face.
It's the only face I need.
Just different frowny faces.
Yep. Horizontal is the best my smile can get.
Until then, it is time for us to wander off until next year. If you want to check out the entire archive of Word Ninjas Live, our archive backlog of Game Break episodes, all the convention shenanigans we've gotten up to in the past 5 years, and everything else, it's primarily on the YouTube channel or fcwriters.com, scattered throughout events, Game Break, podcast, all over. Well worth a perusal. If you want to talk to us or keep an eye on various updates and endeavors, you can track us on social media. We're on Twitter at FCWordNinja currently, Tumblr, fcwordninja.tumblr.com, and Facebook, facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. Once we have new social media links for Inspire the Muse, we will link them accordingly so everyone can find us in our new world.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you want to track me down, your best bet is still personal Tumblr, fancypantswolf.tumblr.com. And theoretically, possibly, potentially, perhaps, maybe, why not? If you follow the Looking for Roleplay podcast, LFRP, you might hear a segment from me this Friday when it's theoretically released, or next week, depending on when that goes out. Because or at least I did an interview segment for them recently. And I believe the release date for that is Friday. And it's also just a really cool podcast worth checking out. Where can people find everyone else before we end the year?
You can usually find me on my Tumblr page at darkhom.tumblr.com. That's DARKHOM. And you can always support me on my Patreon at patreon.com/darkhom. As for my writing blog, that's going to get some revamping over the next couple weeks for the new year, and it'll probably have a new URL, so I don't know what that will be. But for now, it's still myroommatethestripper.tumblr.com.
And for myself, my website right now is mechanicaljustin.com. It will still be that, but it will probably just be a redirect to inspirethemuse.com/Justin, or however the author tag thing works out. And instead of being a Tumblr blog. I will be doing some writing website thing, which may be a subset of mechanicaljustin.com. Unknown yet, but it'll be interesting, and I have only the slightest idea of how I'm going to pull that off. So don't look for me on that yet. Keep an eye out on mechanicaljustin.com, and for more live updates on my Twitter, MJOnTap. And I could always use more followers, so feel free to follow me. And if you are a spam bot, I will delete you because I'm very good about that. No, I don't want to see your sexy pics. And no, I don't want to visit your crappy website that you spam into every single Twitter post that you make. I know who you are. And I even know that most of the authors that are following me right now are actually also technically spam bots, but at least they post interesting comments in between all their spam. So I allow those people to stay in my feed.
And as for me, as always, Twitter and Instagram at CCWII, and Tumblr, instacal.tumblr.com. And I might as well pimp out SoundCloud as well, since why not? It's soundcloud.com/sounds by Calvin.
And all of our other various social media links are over on the About Us page on fcwriters.com if you want to try any of the other methods. With that, thank you all for joining us for 122 episodes of Word Ninjas Live. Thank you for yet another wonderful year of shenanigans, conventions, events, fairs, festivals, video games, book reviews, podcasts, interviews, and everything else we got up to. It has been a fantastic time as full-covered writers, but it's time to evolve. Time to level up.
Time to eat that rare candy.
Yes.
Is that the evolution thing? I don't even remember anymore.
I was blanking on the terminology, too.
Yes, it's a rare candy.
Okay, thank you.
We will see you all in 2016 in a shiny new podcast with shiny new website, shiny new everything. So join us again next year so we can break it all in, get some dust or mud on there, and see what we can accomplish. Until then, enjoy the holidays, make it through work weeks, school weeks, anything else that may be coming up before next year kicks in.
Like this report.
Yeah, or some of my deadlines. And otherwise, we will see you all next time. Peace out.